Hello and welcome. I'm Ijoma Onyato. Tonight, senators in heated argument over seat allocation after the Senate President, Dr. Bukola Saraki, declined request by Senator Godswill Akpabio to speak on the floor of the upper legislative chamber. Federal Executive Council announces approval of $2.9 billion in Eurobonds and other securities in its national market to fund key capital projects in the 2018 budget. Nigeria moves up 10 places to 115th position from 125th position in the latest global competitiveness ranking by the World Economic Forum. And Prince Charles and his wife Camilla to visit Nigeria in November as part of their three-nation Africa tour.
On business news tonight, Senate approves federal government's request to issue $2.7 billion Eurobond to finance Nigeria's 2018 budget, but cautions against external borrowing.
And on sports news tonight, unified middleweight world champion Canelo Alvarez signs a 5-year, 11-fight deal worth $365 million, making him the highest-paid athlete contract in sports history.
And from Abuja, EFCC releases photographs of houses allegedly purchased by former Governor Ayodele Fayose with proceeds of corruption. Mr. Fayose denies the allegations, asks to be charged to court as he spends second day in EFCC custody.
Tonight with a heated disagreement among some senators today on the floor of the Red Chamber after the Senate President declined Senator Godswill Akpabio's request to respond to a matter raised by Senator Basi Akpan. Senator Akpan had alleged that the APC was planning to disrupt the governorship election in Akwa Ibom State. The Senate President had pointed out that Senator Akpabio was sitting in an unallocated seat and one without a microphone. That drama played out before the senators urged the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the ATM card maintenance charges being deducted from customers' accounts. Our correspondent Terry Ikumi reports.
As lawmakers settle down to the business of the day, a PDP senator from Akwa Ibom State raises a point of personal information.
The state government has discovered a plot by the All Progressive Congress in Akwa Ibom State to cause mayhem, which will eventually lead to the cancellation of the coming governorship election in Akwa Ibom State.
An attempt by Senator Godswill Akpabio, an APC senator also from Akwa Ibom State, to speak and possibly respond to the accusation is denied by the Senate President.
You can't speak from there now. You can go to your seat, then when you get your seat, I'll recognize you.
The situation escalates as the Senate President is forced to explain his reason for refusing Senator Akpabio from speaking.
When we started, the first time I came, I sat next to Senator Kwankwaso until I was led by the sergeant at arms that this is my seat.
I asked the clerk whether he allocated that seat to you. He said he didn't.
He told me he would prefer to sit here. So I said there is no microphone there, but he said he will still prefer to sit there.
If there's been a senator that have allowed to speak without a microphone, state. It has never happened in this chamber. All we said is there's no microphone where you are. Go to a place where there's one and you can speak. Now you have the floor, speak and let us make progress.
Until the Senate is well reconstituted and the sitting arrangements well arranged, I want to hold my peace.
After the situation is calmed, Senator Gbenga Ashafa presents a motion on the need to check the illicit and excessive charges by Nigerian banks on customers' accounts, with particular focus on automated teller machine ATM cards maintenance and withdrawal charges.
Mandate the Committee on Banking, Insurance and Other Financial Institutions and Finance to invite the Governor of Central Bank of Nigeria to appear before the committee in order to explain why the official charges as approved by the CBN are skewed in favor of the banking institutions as against the ordinary customer of the banks. Urge the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the ATM card maintenance charges being deducted from customers' accounts pending the outcome of the investigation by the committees.
The Senate adopts his motion, but an amendment is made to address the 10,000 naira ATM withdrawal limit by some banks.
It urges the Central Bank of Nigeria to suspend the ATM card maintenance charges being deducted from customers' account pending the outcome investigation by the committees, and also the banks should configure their machines to allow 40,000 per withdrawals. Those in favor of that amendment say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
The Senate also resolves to urge the Consumer Protection Council to look into the various complaints of excess and unnecessary charges by the banks. Terry Ikumi, Channels Television News.
The federal government has taken steps to begin implementation of its external borrowing plan with an approval to issue $2.9 billion in Eurobonds. This is one of the outcomes of the Federal Executive Council meeting presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari. Other approvals given by the Council include pegging of the tenure of trade union executive positions and loans to be given to families in the states of the Niger Delta. Our correspondent Ibrahim Adra reports.
The meeting commenced at 11 a.m. with the arrival of President Muhammadu Buhari into the council chambers. On hand to brief reporters after the meeting are the Ministers of Finance, Agriculture, Labour and Productivity, and the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media. The Finance Minister spoke about an approval that will lead to the implementation of external borrowing plan captured in the 2018 budget.
We got approval for the issuance of $2.9 billion in Eurobonds and other securities from the international capital market. And the purpose of this approval is to enable us implement the external borrowing plan of $849.673 billion, equivalent to $2.786 billion.
There is also an approval for payment of transaction parties.
We also got approval from FEC for the approval of transaction parties and their respective fees and expenses. So there are 5 parties of the transaction.
Mrs. Ahmed says that as at 2 weeks ago, the sum of 460 billion naira has been released for capital projects. The Federal Executive Council also approves loan for families in states of the Niger Delta.
This loan has come to support part of it in the Niger Delta. The rest of it is in our budget. So we shall be acting in all the states of the Federation simultaneously. So no state will be left out.
In its deliberation, the Council okays a recommendation of a technical committee on industrial relations to peg maximum tenure of unionists at 2 years.
Government realizes that some persons in the public service go into trade union executive positions, hold offices, and they do that for life, for as long as they're in the service. And in doing so, they will refuse postings and redeployment under the guise that they are doing trade union activities. Government says no.
On the intense debate that trailed FG's Executive Order 6, the position is that that will not stop the government from its implementation.
The order had been well thought out. It has now been tested in court. It has been proven to be legal, constitutional, and implementable.
Following the Executive Order 6, the FG has banned about 50 Nigerians from traveling abroad, though there are no details as to who those individuals are. From the Presidential Villa, Ibrahim Adra, Channels Television News.
And in the House of Representatives, consideration of a proposed amendment to the Electoral Act by lawmakers today led to moments of heated debate over an amendment of the issue of smart card readers. The report of the Committee on Electoral Matters was being considered clause by clause, but some lawmakers sought to deny the Independent National Electoral Commission the powers to use any other technological device than the smart card readers to accredit voters. Our correspondent Lanre Lasisi tells us how it turned out.
Lawmakers gathered to commence the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill seeking to amend the Electoral Act.
Clause 7.
The bill is coming back after President Muhammadu Buhari declined assent to it for the 3rd time.
Section 18.
After a short introduction by the chairman of the House Committee on Electoral Matters, the clause-by-clause consideration of the bill commences.
Clause 22.
The process, however, got heated with this proposed amendment.
The presiding officer shall use a smart card reader or any other technological device that why I'm saying that we should delete any other technological device that may be prescribed by the Commission. Let us leave only card reader.
Yes. Before they bring German food. We should not foreclose that there's development that can take place within the Nigerian context or outside what that can give you a better result of what you want, provided it's going to give you the result of what you want. Are we saying that there will be no other improvement and we'll stop only on card reader? We may have another instrument that tomorrow will give you the result of better than a card reader.
So we cannot accept for the masses things we don't know. If we say card reader or laptop, fine, it is defined. But to say any other is vague.
The debate dragged for over 30 minutes and finally a vote was taken.
Those in support of the provision of sub-clause 2, including any technological device, you say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it.
After some time, some PDP lawmakers who appeared displeased with the proceedings made their way out of the chambers. The House, however, deleted Section 52, subsection 1B, which says the use of electronic voting machines for the time being is prohibited. The House, however, adjourned sitting without completing work on the document. It's expected that consideration of the bill will continue on Thursday. Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
To politics now, it's barely the 24 hours, the deadline of the submission of names of candidates for the 2019 general election, but only 8 political parties have forwarded their nomination lists to the Independent National Electoral Commission. This was disclosed by the INEC chairman, Professor Mahmood Yakubu, at a quarterly dialogue session with the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room in Abuja. The INEC chairman, however, did not mention the names of the parties that have complied with the deadline. While frowning on the late submission and the anticipated rush, Professor Yakubu said that 89 political parties had submitted notices to the Commission to field candidates for the 2019 election.
It's 120 days to the 2019 general elections, and the Independent National Electoral Commission is doing some housekeeping to ensure a free and credible electoral process. This quarterly dialogue session with the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room provided an opportunity for the review of the just concluded Osun governorship election, especially the roles played by security agencies in the rerun.
The security services have no business interfering with people's expression of free will. So please, it is important for us, and we will say this, and we will hope that we can meet with the IGP to be able to communicate to him an important need for the police to be non-partisan as we go towards 2019, because citizens will not accept a partisan police force in the 2019 general elections.
We have reviewed the successes and the lapses recorded during the recent elections in Edo, Ondo, Rivers, and Anambra states, Ekiti, and of course, recently, Osun State, with a view to improving what we have done in those elections. And where we have noticed observable lapses, we intend to correct them.
Over 21 million voters are expected to participate in the 2019 general election, and the Independent National Electoral Commission is planning to release the last set of permanent voters' card by December for collection. The INEC chairman also gives an update on the level of the Commission's preparedness for the election.
At the close of business yesterday, only 8 political parties filed nominations. We'll have the figure for today at the close of nominations today. So we still expect nominations from 81 political parties. I guess they will all come before midnight on the 8th. even though we have given ample time for the conduct of primaries and the submission of nominations.
Before the election, the Commission will conduct some by-elections to fill up vacant legislative seats at the national and state assemblies.
In part two, after the break, Nigeria moves up in global competitiveness ranking by the World Economic Forum, and we'll have an economist, Mr. Bismarck Rawane, to give us some perspective. That's in a moment. Please join us.